Okay, so we picked how to iterate less chaotically. And I figured I would start this. I wrote this one down because I read a book a couple years ago. It's called Leading with Digital. And it
Who
had,
reads?
I know, me.
What?
And it has 5 reasons why companies struggle to iterate. It also reported that only about 1/3 of companies are actually living up to changing their pace based on data and insights versus the amount of companies who claim they do. So the 5 reasons were unrealistic expectations,
Yep.
underdeveloped talent, so the resources who are capable of helping you iterate with less chaos,
Josh.
poor communication, lack of digital culture, so there really is just a lack of like knowing where to go or what to do,
Mm.
constant competition. The target is moving at a rate that is so hard to keep up with when it comes to
More
staying on the
now
cutting
with
edge.
AI, especially.
So I thought those were 5 really good places just to kind of like start us for like
Mm.
reasons why it's difficult. And then obviously you guys have some thoughts on how to do it less chaotically.
I'm super interested in hearing Josh's perspective because I think that iteration doesn't happen very often in creative. Like everybody thinks of iteration as a development thing. But I think Josh, I think you guys do a lot of iteration at Oodle and our creative team.
Yeah, I mean that's it, obviously. Hey, I'm on the creative side, so immediately I went to creative iteration. Shocking, I know. I mean the ways I look at it is one, a lot of iteration for us happens in that early stage process when we're actually doing conceptual pieces and trying to get to the idea. Ways to do that faster these days. I'm going to be the guy to say it. Just did a talk on it. Is using AI. It's a way to just like start throwing out ideas and start getting wheels turning, going, ooh, this could be a good option to move on here. I think post campaign execution, iterating does become harder, and it is something that a lot of places don't think to do. It is a very much a set it and forget it. It's something we like to
Did
look
you
at.
read my notes?
I probably did. But especially usually things like social, you get ad fatigue. So we're looking at stuff like that. Like, is it just an image change that needs to happen? Is it a copy change? We try to look at these fairly often to see, is there something, a simple change that can be made? Is it like this one's just not working? Let's change a headline. Let's do that. And I think having tools at the ready or people at the ready, like I said, early in conceptual phases, we present 2 or 3 headlines to a client. That doesn't mean we don't have 50 on a sheet of paper over here that are
Right.
just like, they're just really good. We could use these. So it's kind of having some of those in your back pocket. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Tom, I bet you
I
have
had
something from.
my thing was like you have to set up an iteration. Everybody thinks it's not like waterfall, so there's not as much process to it. It's actually way more important to have process around iteration. Otherwise, you just ruin it because you either don't brainstorm and innovate and execute the right way, or you do and you ship something really fast to get it in front of the market and learn, and you set it and forget it. And so I think that we see that in 2 different ways. We either work with clients who are really kind of hell bent on getting it perfect the first time and then it never, half the time, never comes to fruition, or they're okay with just, let's just ship it, and they ship it and then we forget about it, and 6 months later we're looking like there's ad fatigue. We don't know what to do because we didn't set up a process to make sure that we're revisiting it very often. And I mean, I think that you can actually automate a lot of that process, because my other big key takeaway was that I think in our experience we have clients drive the iteration more than we drive, excuse me, more than the marketplace drives the iteration. So the client will come and say, I don't like this color. Whereas they're like, Optimizely is a great tool for websites to install and let the user tell you what call to action works better, what color works better, etc. So I think that listening to the market is really important. Having a process that helps you revisit and iterate often is like critically important.
Yeah, my last super critical call out is budgeting for it, which
Mm.
is the number one hindrance we run into with our client partners, and rightfully so. There's other priorities, but making this a priority will help you get to deprioritizing some of this other stuff that's cluttering your ability to iterate and progress. And then from a planning standpoint, like Tom said, I like to think of it as, let's map the customer experience we're trying to appeal to. Let's overlay that with the digital channels we'll be executing it against. And then let's also include the technology processes and moments that we're going to use along those stages to bring it to life. From a
Tech is a big
planning
one.
standpoint, lay it out that way. And then,
Yep.
Ideally you have some sort of budget dedicated to it. So like we're all saying, it doesn't feel like a surprise. It doesn't feel reactionary.
And I think
Yep.
I think you called it out there. I mean, we do it with several of our clients. We plan campaign refreshes. That
Yep.
has to be part of the process. It's not like we're going to do a campaign. Cool. If we're doing a campaign, just know that your campaign is 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
If you want to have an ongoing campaign, let's
Yeah.
talk about the refresh time frame in there. Time to go back and look and evaluate performance and be, is it time for creative refresh? Is it a messaging change? Is it an evolution? Are we seeing, often in an ideal world, we'd have 2 or 3 creatives and we would optimize towards one of those. There we go.
Got it in under the wire. I think it's funny though, Josh, that like I feel like ours overlapped heavily, and I was intentionally trying to be like, don't just make this about creative. And I was like, use AI, don't just ship it and forget it, test the hell out of things. I think you had all those.
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of the thing. It's a creative process or a process. It's still getting to the best solution and iterating on
Yeah.
it, and enhancing. So
I also thought, Riley, your point was well taken about planning. You have to process, but you also have to plan. Having a good process isn't enough. You got to have. I think that your point about technology is a really great way to. The prompt was better ways to iterate, or how to iterate less chaotically. I think technology is totally underutilized in this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.